Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm your humble host, Kevin Kietzman, and we got a bang-up show for you today. In just a couple of moments, Phil LeVota will join us, Jackson County attorney who is involved in this. Well, we'll discuss how he's involved, but he's been approached to potentially serve as the interim county executive should Frank White leave office here before the next election cycle. So we're going to do that. If you are interested, we will take some phone calls as well. He's decided to stay with us for a while and take his time. That should be a lot of fun. And a little bit later, we'll check in with Mark. Did you know, Mark, there was a no-hitter in the Royals organization last night?
I did see that.
Unfortunately, it was not the Royals.
No.
It's one of the minor league teams. But we will get there. We'll start first with the news of each of the owners of the Royals and Chiefs putting out statements. And before I read you their statements, which are short, and I want to spend a lot of time on this, I think it's great that more and more media are on this and stories are being reported. And I know you're hearing a lot of things on KCMO Talk Radio that Pete Mundo's reported and I've reported that you're hearing for the first time when we do that. This is a necessary step to help this all happen. And I think everybody's in agreement. We want the Royals and Chiefs to be in Kansas City for another 50 years or 100 years or however long we can all be blessed enough to live. So we're all on board with that. On Tuesday, the Missouri Senate advanced legislation to create the Sports Authority in Clay County. This is where now there's more steam that the Royals could be headed. Clark Hunt gave the first statement, talking about the possibility of other areas to be exploring for the Chiefs. Quote, our family and our organization are certainly thankful to see that a place that we've called our home for more than 6 decades, and we've made countless memories alongside generations of Chiefs fans. Working with our partners and community leaders, we remain committed to the continued growth and success of the entire region. You're going to hear region and greater Kansas City mentioned a lot. John Sherman said their ownership group is grateful for the support, impressive coalition of civic leaders, which have come together to help us continue to thrive in the region. Greater Kansas City is our team's home. For our fans, our partners, and our major league community, we want to keep it that way. I believe that. There's a scare tactic going on out there right now between civic leaders and this effort and these comments by these owners. There is no viable or reasonable threat by either team right now to leave. The Chiefs are going nowhere. The Royals, in my opinion, will be at least 2 years away from making some sort of a decision to leave. But it is time to get on this. We've been at this for 2.5 years, and we got to get figured out. This week, we introduced you to a new name right here on KCMO Talk Radio that many people in Kansas City know, but perhaps you did not as it pertains to these things. He is Phil LeVota. He's a Jackson County attorney, and he's a lifelong resident of the county, and he's been approached by people in Jackson County. Should a recall for Frank White be successful, or should Frank White resign, would you be interested in being the county executive until the election, which would be in the fall of 2026. Phil is in studio today, and we got a lot to talk about. Mr. LeVota, how are you, sir?
Good morning. Politics and sports together. It's an amazing topic.
It really is, and it's amazing how far it crosses, and it's been going on for a long time. When I did sports radio, they said, stay away from politics. I'm like, but they're so intertwined. You've been a giant sports fan, lived in Jackson County your whole life. You've got a successful law firm, and you're now in a position of note in the community, but you're still the same sports fan as I understand it.
Without a doubt.
You're a jersey-wearing guy. Is that right?
Yes, I want them to stay.
Yeah.
Simple.
And you're talking about the region or Jackson County?
Jackson County.
Okay. So let's take this step by step. Let's start with the recall. The signatures are there. They've been tabulated. I'm going to guess it's around 50,000 because it has to be a certain percentage above the needed numbers in case they get kicked out. So the numbers are there, but there's no money to release these signatures for a recall. That's where we are?
Yeah, to back up, a company called Democracy in Action was hired. Not by me. I'm not involved in the recall effort or anything like that. Was hired to collect signatures, and they have 50,000 signatures. It's well over the amount they need to give to the election authority. They haven't been paid, and they want to get paid. Once they get paid, they'll release those signatures. And the process works. Once those signatures are given to the election authority under the county charter, a recall election shall happen within 60 days. So the election authority still goes through it and verifies and makes sure it's all there, but the clock starts ticking once they're presented to the election authority. So that could happen today, tomorrow, as soon as they're released. So the group that started this is chasing down money right now to get that, and that will start the ball rolling.
Okay, the group that started it, were they presuming that the Chiefs and Royals would pay for the back end, $150,000?
I could speculate they were. I don't know what they think and what their conversation with the Chiefs and Royals are. I sure hope they will be involved, but I don't know. I can't. I'd like to tell you that, but I don't.
Okay, the Chiefs and Royals have an opportunity to pay peanuts and get these signatures released and get Frank White out, who they believe kept them from winning the other election. The question is, why haven't they done that? This is no money at all for the Chiefs and Royals. Why do you think they're not doing this?
That's what I'm worried about. The fact that they might not want to get involved leads me to believe that they're looking somewhere else in Jackson County. So when I was approached by this, I'm a former Jackson County committee chairman here in the county. I've been involved in politics all my life. I know all these players, and I was flattered when they came to me and said, listen, we need someone to right the ship. The Chiefs and Royals are floundering, and a lot of it is they have no leadership in Jackson County. I will tell you that I'm confident that the Chiefs and Royals are just frustrated with Jackson County, and they probably are tired of dealing with them. And one of the main reasons is no leadership from Frank White. The legislature has some great people, 9 members of the legislature down there. They're wanting to do everything they do to keep the Royals and Chiefs in town. But they're being stonewalled by that and, of course, the tax assessments, which can get to and spend hours that debacle in Jackson County. But they're getting stonewalled by the county executive. So with the tax assessment, with the Chiefs and Royals and Frank not stepping up to the plate, pun intended,
right?
They want to recall him. And that's where it started. And I think the Chiefs and Royals are frustrated, and that's why maybe they don't want to get involved in this.
So
maybe they think it's too late.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think the Chiefs and Royals have given up on Jackson County unless something really dramatic happens in the next few weeks?
And the dramatic thing that has to happen is Frank White needs to get out. You've got the governor of Missouri, you've got state senators, state reps, you've got the city council, the mayor, you've got the Jackson County legislature, everyone working together except for the county executive. And that has been not just a bump on the road, it's been a roadblock. And I think, well, actually, I'm confident if he's gone and everyone gets together, it's a whole new day. You sit down with the teams and you actually, what do they need to stay in Jackson County? Now, I'm a big fan of the tax last year. A lot of people weren't. I was. Remember, it's a 3/8 sales tax that Jackson County's been paying. It wasn't going to be a new tax at all, and that was going to fund the stadiums, along with other issues, of course.
But the teams botched it as much as anything, didn't they?
I would say that the campaign botched it. They didn't explain it well enough. I thought, like a lot of people thought, we just won the Super Bowl. Of course people are going to vote for this.
Weren't we 2 weeks out from that vote and still didn't know where the Royals site was?
Exactly. Yep.
So that's botched.
I believe the campaign has a lot of botched parts to it. But I think the issue of the 3/8 sales tax funding the Chiefs and Royals with new stadiums is a grand idea, and it's not a tax increase.
These two owners have said that they hope to be able to announce something by this summer. Do you think they know where they're going?
I think they sure have an idea, and I don't know if they're waiting to see who will step up and offer more. Here comes Clay County, Kansas. The Star bonds, I think they expire in June. I'm sure
June
the legislature
30th.
will extend those.
I wouldn't be sure about that.
I know, and so that I think they're waiting to see. So if they're not, then they're not coming to Kansas. So I think they're looking to see their options. I mean, they're the young lady at the ball that all the suitors are trying to see, but they've got to make a decision. As you know, it's running out of time.
We're talking with Phil LeVota. He's a Jackson County attorney. He's been approached by, can you tell us who approached you?
I will tell you some
members of the legislature.
I'll tell you some people that I really respect politically, business wise, and civic leaders have came to me and sat down and said, "Here's what we think. We want someone that we can trust to bring some confidence back to Jackson County for this tax assessment. We have people that are getting thrown out of their homes, getting foreclosed because of this debacle, and it needs to be fixed. And secondly, we need some leadership in Jackson County to talk to these teams." And Frank White will tell you he was opposed to the tax because he didn't like it, but he didn't come up with an alternative. And that's the lack of leadership in him. If he wanted to, he could have stepped up and said, "Here you go. I don't like that, but let's do this." And he hasn't done that. So that's why I've approached all these people that I trust. And I was, again, humbled that they would talk to me about it. But I thought, you know what? I could do this. I told them I'm not a career politician. I would not run for office again. And I think that's appealing to members of the legislature. The county legislature, there's 9 people on there, and a majority of them want to be county executives.
So they all want it. They'd all want to be interim, wouldn't they?
Because if you're interim, then you're incumbent, and you have a step up. So they'd all like to do that. But
the best way to do it would be to have somebody interim and have a real election next year, right?
Exactly. And that's what I committed, that I would not run for re-election. I would serve the remainder term, and my first priority would take care of this tax debacle at the same time as sitting down with the Chiefs and Royals and the governor and the state reps and state senators and sports commission and everyone and get on board.
If Frank White resigned, does he have any say in who the next person is? And the legislature would have to approve you, correct?
Yeah, interesting enough.
By a 5-4 vote?
He gets to appoint an interim county exec for 30 days.
Okay.
Now, I would anticipate the Jackson County legislature the day he appointed someone to appoint someone so that person would only be there for a day. But of those 9, they would have to select the county executive. So it'd be a 5-4 vote.
Which would also make it trouble for one of them on the legislature to win it, right?
Exactly. And that's why even members of the legislature themselves have said, I don't want another member of the legislature to be on that.
Yeah, they want to hand the power to him, and they want to win the election next year.
Exactly. And make it an even playing field. So, again, and I haven't approached any of the members of the legislature about this. There's a lot of dominoes that have to fall. I've been doing this way too long to know. Don't put a cart in front of your horse and wait and see what happens. But it's speculation. If you have a plan, you need to work that plan. And to be approached, I'm in a position that I would serve if asked.
All right, tons of our listeners right now may be more concerned about their property taxes than the sports teams. When we come back, Phil LeVota is here. I'll ask him how to balance that and what he would do if he were the interim county executive to save the Royals and Chiefs in Jackson County at the sports complex. If you have a question for Phil, give us a call, 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957. Phil LeVota is here. He has been approached by folks in Jackson County to potentially be an interim county executive if Frank White resigns or a recall election boots him out of office. This is Uncanceled. We're back on KCMO right after this.
Kevin Kietzman is Uncanceled and back on Kansas City Radio, 10 to 11 a.m. on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, this is good stuff. Phil LeVota's here from Jackson County. He's an attorney who has been approached to potentially be an interim replacement for Frank White as county executive should the recall get paid for, which is just sitting there. We've heard all this about the recall. The signatures are there. It's ready to go. Somebody's got to pony up $150,000 to release them, and it's on. I think the belief is that Frank White would then resign and not be subject to a recall election. Phil, are you of the belief that he would resign before he would be recalled?
You know, it's just in the public, the scrutiny of being recalled, and that I think Frank's the kind of guy who would just, if it's going to happen, I'm going to get out of the way. I think he would resign.
Retire, take your pension, move on, and live a private life. Okay, so there's a lot of ifs here. You've mentioned the process, and it would have to be approved. But if you were interim county executive, how would you balance property tax issues that so many people are sideways about and trying to save the teams at the same time?
Well, in this world, this fantasy world where all these dominoes happen and I'm sitting in the county courthouse, I don't think I have to balance it. I think you can do both at the same time. I think you have a county legislature down there. You got Manny Barca and Sean Smith that are fighting every day for this, fix this tax thing. The state tax commission came back. The judge found that it was illegal. They passed an ordinance last week that they think Frank White's going to veto. My point being, you have a legislature ready to work on the taxes on day one with a county executive that will work with them. And they can be fixed. They can be rolled back to the 2023 one, and you can only go 15% higher. And that would dramatically help a lot of these people that had tax increases of 100 to 150% out of the blue. And they tried to appeal it, and the appeal's a debacle. So I think you can fix that, and you can work on that day one with the county legislature. I think they're ready to fix it. At the same time, I think One Arrowhead Way and Royals Stadium, Kauffman Stadium, need to know there's a new sheriff in town that wants to work and will work with you and will talk to you in line with the governor and the state senate. And everybody in the elected position will sit down with them, and you won't have somebody poo-pooing it and getting in the way like the county executive has done. So I don't think I'd balance it. I think I'd go at both of them full speed on day one.
Okay, if this happened and we got to a point where there were votes in August for sales taxes in Jackson County for the Chiefs and or Royals, would you want two separate issues on the ballot? I think it'd be interesting as heck to see Jackson County voters go to the polls and have a chance to say yes or no for the Royals and yes or no for the Chiefs. Would you separate them?
That's a good point. There's a lot of people that have different opinions about that. I think it's good and bad. I don't know that the teams wanted to be on the same ballot together. They worked well in the campaign together, but I'm not sure their interests were always the same. So maybe it's beneficial to have them both on there. Or one speculation was to make it on the same ballot, that the three, if one of them won, they'd get a quarter cent sales tax, and the other one would go away. And so you could split the baby. But the point of doing that is something to be looked at for sure, instead of just putting it on the ballot like it did before.
Okay, this is a tough question. I'm just going to come straight forward and ask you. Is there a chance that this is all, spitting into the wind, and it's too little too late, that these teams have decided they are not dealing with Jackson County anymore and they're both out of there? What percentage chance would you put on it that the Royals and Chiefs have checked out and they're done in Jackson County?
I think today they are. I think there's a huge chance they've checked out. They don't want to talk to Jackson County. They're frustrated about Jackson County. But I think that can change. I think that can change if they have new leadership and new approach and new positivity from the Jackson County Courthouse and with all the partners. So my answer is, yeah, I bet they've checked out. The debacle and the circus down in Jackson County, I'll bet they're like, we're not dealing with them anymore. But I think if things changed, and that's my message to them too. Hey, I think Jackson County can keep the Chiefs and the Royals, and I hope you guys stay, and I hope this could happen. And whether it's me as the county executive or another person, I hope we can go there. I believe that the Chiefs and Royals should stay in Jackson County and can stay in Jackson County and can get a deal that the fans and the taxpayers and both the teams will love.
And the urgency this time is real. 2 years ago, it wasn't real.
You're right.
It's real this time because the deadline, look, the Chiefs we've reported here that they have options on land in Kansas in different areas, and they've placed, I think the date is May 19th, which would be the last legislative session for Jackson County legislators, the Monday before Memorial Day. That would be the last chance to get something on the ballot in August for them. We're talking about just barely over a month away. You have to get Frank White out of the way, somebody else in, sit down with the Chiefs, convince them we're going to put something on the ballot in August, hang on or work a deal If Kansas is your thing, have them extend it. I don't know how they're going to extend the June 30th Star Bond deadline. It all just sounds like it's a Rubik's Cube at this point.
I think that's what the teams are looking at. Like, boy, it's way too much. And now we've got all these different suitors, and we got Clay County is in play again, and Nashville, and all of that's going on, and that's frustrating. I know for the teams because they have nobody with a straight line to help them, and they need that. They need that direction, and they need partners. They don't have any partners. They got a bunch of people with great ideas to put the stadium here or there, but they've got nobody that they can walk arm in arm with and get through this political mess and say, this is the right answer and sell it to the taxpayers. That's the thing. Everybody can sit down and say, here's a great idea. Royal Stadium here, Chiefs maybe move over Royal Stadium was and build a new one, but you got to sell it to the taxpayers, and the taxpayers have no credibility in Jackson County government at all. And that's what they need back.
You mentioned Nashville. I watched a report on Channel 9 yesterday, and they interviewed a professor of political science at Park University, and he said, it just what you think. I mean, he's like, okay, if we don't pay the tax here and do this here, some other city will. I'm astounded every time this comes up that, hey, somebody's moving, they're leaving. This is a scare tactic. Do you really believe Nashville is in play for the Royals at this point, or is that something a year or two away?
I think they're in play.
Right now?
Right now.
You think they're talking to people in Nashville?
Yes. I think they're having conversations about what would the package be? What would the package be to get the Kansas City Royals to Nashville? What's the stadium look like? What's the funding from the public like? What's their percentage to put in? I think they have to be having that conversation. The door's closing on Kauffman. We know that. They're going. And all this of where they're going, it's a mess.
Yeah, because I don't think they have a spot in Kansas, but I also don't think they're going to get an offer like Kansas. They're going to pay 70% of everything they want, but they don't really have a location they like. If the Chiefs are headed to the Legends, they don't want to be by the Chiefs. Now, maybe the Royals would go to the Legends if the Chiefs are staying at Arrowhead, and I would think these teams would be talking to each other a little bit, wouldn't they? They clearly don't want to be together anymore, right?
Correct.
They want to be in different locations and be completely separate entities.
Well, if they could have brand new stadiums next door to each other, they certainly would, but that's not going to happen.
You know the history in this town is those teams didn't like each other forever.
Yeah, well, that's why they put the stadiums together, because it was beneficial for the city, for the county.
Right, saved money.
And it was really good. Could use that parking lot and everything. But I know you're not a big fan of the downtown stadium, but that Kansas City Star location, Sean Smith was telling me this on the legislature. The Star printing thing had so much electricity, and the infrastructure to bring all that electricity to that location is amazing. And that was one of the reasons that site. So just that alone would take years to bring that much of a energy-sucking thing to that stadium.
I like downtown baseball, and I'm okay with it here in Kansas City. I think we have some other problems in Kansas City downtown that need to be addressed in order to make baseball safe and attractive to everybody that wants to go to the game.
Sure.
That's what bothers me. These smash-ins, these break-ins, these cars that get either stolen or robbed or something out of them. Can you imagine? You got 15,000 cars parked down there at night, 80 nights a year. How many windows are going to get smashed and broken into? Nobody does anything to these people.
I think that's a new county executive sits down with a new county prosecutor and the police chief, and you focus on that, because you don't want people coming down to the stadium and having a bad experience. You don't want people coming from out of town and having an experience like that. And I'm confident a new stadium would make sure that the crime is taken care of.
Yeah. And I think you and I are both in agreement. If it was just straight business, the Royals could make a lot more money by going to Nashville. I agree with that. I understand that. But they are committed to staying here. I do believe that. I think they want to stay here. They're a local ownership group. And Kansas is still an option. But nobody knows what those options are. Do you hear anything about a place in Kansas?
No. I hear so many different options. It's so much speculation. Some are here. Well, what we hear about this old Sprint campus, which wasn't a real deal.
Wasn't a story.
Yeah, you don't know.
All right, Phil LeVota's here. You got time for one more segment?
You bet.
Great. We'll take a little break. Phil LeVota's here. He is an attorney from Jackson County, potentially an interim candidate for county executive if Frank White leaves office. You're listening to Uncanceled. This is KCMO Talk Radio.
From the nation's heartland, it's Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Phil LeVota is our guest today from Jackson County. He's an attorney, and there's been speculation he could be a potential candidate to be the next Jackson County executive on an interim basis should Frank White be recalled or resign, which, I mean, if the teams aren't interested, I don't think... You think Frank White would resign and go through all this for the property tax issue, or would this simply be about the teams? Does either one of those issues affect this more than the other?
The people are mad about the tax. They're mad about the tax, and I think the majority of the people that signed the petitions were about the way he handled
Why
taxes.
isn't somebody stepping up and paying for the release of those numbers to do this recall? I can't get past that.
Well, I don't know what's out there. The group's called Democracy in Action. I know nothing about them, but I know you probably find them online. If anybody listening wants to write them a check for $10 or $100,000, that could do it. But I don't know if people knew that what was out there. Maybe this helps.
All right, we were talking a little law during the break. I want to bring this up because we talked about it a couple of days ago on the show. This police officer Saturday night that was run over by the ATV driver, they haven't found him yet. It's aggravated assault is the charge, and I made a big deal that I'm not a lawyer, but that's attempted murder to me. There's no question he was, in my mind, he did the wheelie, pulled up, went at the cop's head, and then when the cop was down, stopped and rolled over him again. Explain to our listeners why that's not attempted murder.
Well, in Missouri, there's not an attempted murder. There's a murder, there's assault. So I will tell you this, as a trial attorney, and I spent over a decade prosecuting homicides, you can't get 12 people to agree on where to go to lunch, let alone agree on the facts of a case. So you charge that guy with any type of murder, he's going to say, no, I was just trying to get away. I didn't want to murder him. So you got to think about what the jury is going to say and what they're going to think and what the facts are going to be. So they're going to find him. Criminals talk. They're looking for him. They're going to find him. It was just a horrific thing. This guy needs to be locked up.
How long?
Forever. And we got a brand new prosecutor, Melissa Johnson. She's taken this seriously. She's been we've had a prosecutor that was more worried about politics before Melissa got there, and I think she's going to do a good job. She's now got the confidence of the law enforcement and the police department together. I saw that slipping with our last prosecutor, so I think she's really doing a good job, and they're going to find this guy. And he's going to get charged, and he's going to do some time.
We've spent some time together talking on the phone the last 2 days and together today. We seem to agree on a lot of things. But you're a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I consider myself a conservative, maybe even a populist. I don't know exactly what I am. I just know what I believe. But I'll ask you, has your party hurt the safety of Kansas City, Missouri, and Jackson County?
No, I would not say that.
No?
I would say I'm a very moderate Democrat. I'm a Truman
Right.
Democrat is what I am.
But you sound a lot tougher on crime than most.
Definitely tougher on crime.
So you don't think the last decade or so it's been soft on crime with some of these Democrat policies?
I think that we had a former prosecutor that wasn't as hard on crime as I would have been as a prosecutor, and there was a rift between the police department and the prosecutor's office. And growing up as a young prosecutor, I understood the police were my partners. We did this together, and that was not happening. And so when you are leaning more to what the left's saying about crime and prosecution, you're going the wrong way. You need to be tough on crime and to be simple. It's a deterrence. If not, if you're getting away with stuff, then they're going to keep doing it. So I guess my answer to you is, yeah, I'm a lot tougher on crime than a former prosecutor. And I think our new prosecutor shares that same tough on crime stance.
I'll ask it a different way. If your son was going to the academy to become a cop and he had 2 job offers, Kansas City, Missouri, or Lee's Summit, where would you tell him to go?
I'm going to tell him you're going to, do you want to see more action? Because you're going to see more action in Kansas City.
It's your son.
Yep, you're going to get shot at.
It's your son.
And I don't want you going there.
He's asking, Dad, what should I do?
I want
Kansas
you to go
City
to
or
Lee's Summit,
Lee's
where
Summit.
there's less crime, and you're getting paid well, but you're not going to get shot at. Someone going to the academy, though, they have some different things. They want to get in the action. They want to do something for the community. They want to be in there and really affect crime.
All right, I saw this story in the Northland that Google is building another data center, which I think is a spy center, but whatever. That's a different discussion for a different day. Hey, it's my choice. If I've got devices, I'm agreeing to be spied on. I don't care. They know everything about. Let's be honest. They know everything about us, and that's out the door. So that's not even a debate. Forget it. But Google, Port KC, which used to be the Kansas City Port Authority, is bonding out $10 billion for Google to build a second facility in the Northland with multiple buildings. Hunt Midwest has the others, or at least they had the land. Where does the Port KC get $10 billion through bonds for Google to come to Kansas City, and why don't they do that for stadiums?
It's a great topic of what we're talking about now. $10 billion.
Billion.
Not 10 million, $10 billion. That's taxpayer money. Here's what I'll tell you. There's no leadership that's talking to Port KC, to talking to Jefferson City and saying, let's get on board. When they can do that for Google, they can do that to keep these teams in town. And there's not a leader, no leadership going. The legislature can do it all they want, but there's not a combined effort to say, well, if you can do that, Port KC, you can help us with the stadiums.
I can't name a person at Port KC, and I don't think I've ever seen an interview with anybody from Port KC. How do they operate? Do you know?
They're a commission. I think they're appointed by the governor. And it started as we had a port in Kansas City on the river and developing the port. Well, we don't have really a port or a dock, but we still have a port authority. And they will get into other issues within the city, too. I don't know their dynamics, don't know their authority, but this is a reason to show you that they can do a lot of stuff. And someone ought to be at the Port Authority, KC's meeting and say, hey, can you help us out here to keep these teams in town?
It's near the airport. That's all I know is where they're doing it. Is that they're out?
That could be authority.
You said something interesting. You mentioned the governor. So I think if the Chiefs and Royals are in Missouri, the governor and Jeff City have to save the day. They're the people with the money. I think ultimately a tax in Jackson County would work. That would be helpful, all that. But they got to decide in Jefferson City that this is important. These teams are not going to Kansas or Tennessee. We're going to save them. Can the governor call Port KC and find this money and do this?
He's not going to do it without a leadership team in Jackson County. He's not going to carry the weight. I'll speak for Governor
Kehoe. Clay County?
Yeah. I'll speak for Governor Kehoe. I think he's going to be a great governor. He's not of my party, but I think he's going to do a great job. And I will tell you that he's frustrated with Jackson County and the lack of cooperation. And he's not going to carry it on his own back. He needs leadership. He needs support. He needs a team. He needs the city of Kansas City, Jackson County to get together.
North Kansas City's location for the Royals is almost on the river, for crying out loud. Why can't the governor call Port KC and say we need $2 billion in bonds for the Royals to build a stadium there? We're calling it economic development. There's going to be all kinds of stuff around this. Is that legally possible? If Google's doing this, why couldn't the Royals?
Well, the governor's going to have to listen to his state senators, state reps, and all that to get things done, too. And there's a lot of turf issues involved with money's going to go somewhere. And that much money is going to Clay County. You're sure that the senator from St. Charles is not going to like it. Why aren't we getting money down there?
Even if it keeps them from going to Tennessee or Kansas?
I think if you have enough cooperation and you have your state senators from Jackson County, from Columbia, from Joplin, and they're all on the same team, and they say, yeah, here's our Jackson County legislature and executive down there on board, and we're all on the same team, bipartisan. You know, that's a dirty word these days. Getting along with the other party is a dirty word, but this is an example. We need to quit being partisan in this and work together.
Jackson County Attorney Phil LeVota is our guest. If you didn't live where you lived, would you be a Republican?
I grew up in Jackson Would as a Democrat.
I know. My dad was Democrat, but he's...
my father was on the city council. I grew up as a Harry Truman Democrat.
Would Harry Truman be a Democrat today?
Harry Truman would be my kind of Democrat. We'd be a moderate Democrat.
Would he be a Democrat today?
It depends on where you're a Democrat at.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I know where you live.
Democrat
and history.
Democrat is a big word.
Yeah, and there's a long history of it in Jackson County and independence, and it's a beautiful history.
I have worked on so many campaigns in my career and helped Democratic candidates, and every time the mailer would come out and have my candidate next to Nancy Pelosi, and I always say we're just not the same Democrats as California and New York. You know Chris Stegall.
Sure, yeah.
So I did a show with him years ago.
Yeah.
Stegall and I would fight back and forth about it. I would tell you I am a Democrat. I believe in I believe in a lot of policies the Democrat Party stands for. I am frustrated with the left side of my party on bringing us down, but I'm just frustrated with the right-wing party too. I think we have more in common, everybody. We want better schools, law enforcement, economic jobs. We all want that, but our far right and our far left want us to fight about fringe issues.
All right, one more on this, then I want to ask you a couple of sports things because you and I are both sports fans. So I keep going back. The only reason I've asked about this Google and this bonding money and whether this could happen, I keep going back in my head. All the people in Missouri that are confident those teams are staying in Missouri, that they're not going anywhere, that they're going to be in Missouri. Originally, it was they're going to be in Kansas City, Jackson County. Now it's just like, okay, they're going to be in Missouri. I keep thinking there's something I don't know. Like there's something really big in the weeds being worked on by powerful people to make this happen and keep them in Missouri. Yet I can't find anybody that's heard anything about that. Is it possible there's something happening at a very high level with a very small number of people that know about it, and it's going to be good for Jackson County and or Missouri?
I hope so. But after the election failed, I asked everyone I saw, how'd you vote? How'd you vote? How'd you vote? When they said they voted no, I said, why? And their answer was superficial. Oh, the teams aren't going to leave. They didn't drill down and give me a real reason. So I think when you talk to people and they say, oh, they're going to stay, I don't think they know anything. I think it's superficial and they just think, oh, the teams are going to stay. And they don't understand it's a business. And if you had an opportunity to go to a place of business in an old crappy place or a brand new one, you'd go there and make money. And that's what people need to realize. So I hope there's something going on, but I think most of the time people are just like, oh, they won't go. They aren't drilling down on the issues.
Would you consider it a win or a loss? Well, let's talk states because all of our listeners, I hate this part about Kansas City is we see ourselves in one state or the other. Would you consider it a win or a loss for Missouri right now if the end result was the Royals in North Kansas City with a brand new stadium and the Chiefs at the Legends with a brand new stadium? Would that be a win or a loss for Missouri?
What's my alternative? Them going out of state to Memphis or that? Because I'm a Jackson County guy, and this whole issue came up because people said, would you help if you were approached and you were voted for interim? So I'm a Jackson County guy. So I would fight tooth and nail, and I think Jackson County still has a chance to keep the team.
Okay. And the Royals will not be at Kauffman Stadium. They've said that.
Correct.
What is your favorite site in Jackson County? What do you think would work best for the Royals in Jackson County?
The Kansas City Star Building. I just think that's the best location to tie it into the Power Line District, to tie it into a big entertainment conference or complex that will bring money and bring people downtown. You know, this crime thing, it's overridden. There's not a lot of crime downtown. There's some smash and grabs, and they're on the news. I mean, you know the news. The news cycle is going to be the smash and grab, and the reporter's going to be in the morning. Look at this window broke. It's not that bad. And you have something like that, like any sports complex or entertainment district, you're going to make sure people are safe and people feel safe going there.
How come we haven't heard that much talk about the Star Building area?
Because it died. Well, I'll tell you why. Because Frank White is not stepping up and saying, let's try just doing something else. It died. No one's brought it back up.
That would be a phenomenal location.
Phenomenal location. It's downtown.
They got to clear buildings out, though, right?
They got to clear buildings out. And they didn't deal, I say they, I'll put everybody that worked at the camp, didn't deal with the people down there that were going to be displaced. And they got a lot of news. Like, hey, I'm being displaced, and I run a haircutting thing, and I'm being displaced. And no one sat down with like, okay, well, how can we help you? How can we figure that out? And I think that was a lot, and that got a lot of attraction.
Is it too expensive? Did that get pushed aside? Just too much cost to buy the land, wreck everything, start from new?
No, I think it was going to be cheap to buy the Star Building. It was just the owners of the buildings were on board. I mean, they got to sell their buildings. It was the tenants that were going to be displaced, and everyone forgot about them, and they had a voice, and people listened to them.
Phil, you've been so gracious with your time. Let's finish with this. We're both sports fans. We grew up here. Give me I don't know, 20 seconds each. Favorite memory in Kauffman Stadium, favorite memory at Arrowhead.
Chiefs fan, Chiefs season ticket holder for 15 years. We took a bus out there. We're 40 of us every day. And we went into the Marty Schottenheimer time. And I would tell you that just the time of every season we were going to the Super Bowl. We were going to make the playoffs. And we loved that team. Neil Smith's a good buddy of mine. And those days were great. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. We got our hearts broken in the end, but we knew we could do it. I mean, the Lynn Elliott game, you know, how cold we were out there. So my memories are just being supportive of that team, that era of that. And then here comes Joe Montana. And I told you too, we went to law school. All my finals, I wore the George Brett jersey or Joe Montana jersey. And that's my Royals and Chiefs blood. But that's my biggest thing from Arrowhead, just the era of that. And in Royal Stadium is the retirement of George Brett.
There you go.
His last day there. And I was sitting really close, and he came around there, and he jumped down and kissed the plate. And I got a picture of it.
I was 8 feet away.
Yeah. Well, we were
on the field with Channel 4.
I went 8 feet.
With Scott DeJong, the photographer, and we won a regional Emmy for that.
Oh, really?
That's where we were right there at home plate when he kissed the plate.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Crazy.
Just amazing.
I felt like I was in the way because I could feel people trying to look through me and
we
see
were trying
George.
to take pictures, and you were in the way.
Yeah, I was
Sit down, Kietzman.
I definitely was in the way. I was in the way, but it was a great moment. Thank you, sir, for coming in. We appreciate it. We wish you the best. And if you got any new information or want to share it with us, our audience would love to hear it.
Sure will. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. He is Phil LeVota, Jackson County attorney, joining us on Uncanceled. Right now, we're going to give away some concert tickets Saturday night, T-Mobile Center. It is Kid Rock. 7th caller at 913-408-7957 wins the tickets. This is KCMO Talk Radio.
From Leawood to Liberty, it's Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
We have a winner for the Kid Rock tickets. It's Bo from Eudora. Congratulations, Bo. Have a great time at the show on Saturday night at T-Mobile Center downtown for Kid Rock. Good for you. We got a couple of great topics here to finish up with, but I do want to thank again Phil LeVota for coming in. Interesting conversation, no doubt. If you missed any of it, it's on the podcast page at kcmotalkradio.com. Just click on shows, and where it says Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled, it pops up, and you can hear that day's show or any. They're all libraried. They're right there in a bundle. So if you want to hear the whole thing, it's right there for your access. I also want to, again, for the second day in a row, welcome all the members of the local media listening to Uncanceled and the Chiefs and Royals executives. Thank you for listening to the show today. We're proud to have you in our audience. We have one national story here to do before we get to Mark and some of the good stuff that we like to chat with Mark about. This is just an off the cuff. I just want to make you feel good here today. That's all. There's 470,000, currently 470,000 federal government credit cards that have officially been deactivated. Imagine the money on 470,000 credit cards. Now, what's that doing to the credit card companies? If our government winds up canceling like 2 million credit cards in this country, nobody feels sorry for the banks or the credit card companies, but that's awesome. Elon Musk says there are 4.6 million accounts, credit card accounts at the government, so they've only cut about 10% of them at this point. Keep going. How about every one of them? How about we pay cash for everything? Cut every one of them. Get them all debit cards. And when something's approved, load the account with the money that goes through.
Like Mr. Wonderful said, they're not whacking enough.
That's right. Keep going. More at every possible turn. All right, Mark, I think you're going to know all these stories today because you already gave this one away. Well, we didn't give it away. I just thought there was a cute twist to this. Northwest Arkansas is the Royals AA affiliate, and they won 3-0 last night and had a combined no-hitter. I think it was 3 or 4 pitchers combined.
Yeah, 4, I think.
Not any big names, right? Were they huge prospects? Did you notice anything? Did you see what Eric Hosmer posted about the no-hitter?
No, I did not.
Bring Jack Caglione up now. Northwest throws a no-hitter. Jack Caglione's a first baseman that hits home runs, folks. He had nothing to do with it, but the point is, I think Hosmer's saying that guy's a winner everywhere he goes. Something good is going to happen. Get him up here.
Yeah, there's excitement.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And, yeah, Hosmer, I mean, he knows a good first baseman. He was a good one himself. So I think seeing a guy like Jack Caglione and the possibility of him coming up to help the Royals maybe make a playoff push, that would be a lot of fun.
Do you watch on FanDuel? Do you watch the games, Royals games on FanDuel? Do you see the other programming or just the Royals through streaming?
I can see other programming.
Right. Okay. So like before and after all week this week, the games, they're now running the Eric Hosmer podcast.
Okay.
It's a regular show on FanDuel Sports called Digging Deep, and they run promos for it all the time during the games and whatnot. The first episode, which was a couple of years ago, is George Brett, and it's been running all week. It's just fantastic.
That's a good one. I've seen him in, they had Dayton Moore on there, I believe.
Yeah, they've had great guests. All kinds of players from around Major League Baseball. A lot of them they do because Hosmer's in Miami. When the teams come to Miami to play, he has them out to his house. They record the podcast. Pretty cool stuff. Jonathan India for the Royals is hitting 196. They lost again last night. They're not hitting. He was hurt and not in the lineup, but he may be coming back tonight. Is it too early to mention that Brady Singer is 3-0 with the Reds?
No, because we need bats. So as long as India can turn it around and get back, because he was all right that first week of the season. He's just fallen off. So just need to get him back on track, and I think that we'll be all right. The Royals starting pitching has not been the problem. So that's the other part of this.
Agreed. The Royals heading into the Yankees series had the lowest earned run average in the American League. They've lost both games. They can't score. They scored 2 last night. And I guess could have won the game 2-0 or 2-1. Different decisions, using the bullpen differently, whatever. But that's not the point. The point is you got good starting pitching before it fell apart for Waka. Then you brought in a reliever, Zerpa, who gave up a double with the bases loaded, and you lose the game. But I'm still not sure about that trade. He's hitting 196. In India, to be fair, he has 10 walks, which is excellent. Royals have needed somebody to draw walks in front of Bobby Witt, so we're okay with that. A young lady from Maryville named Serena Sundell was drafted by the Seattle WNBA team. And this became a big news story in Seattle and somewhat nationally because her brother Jalen plays for the Seahawks and has a chance to be the starting center. Did you know these people before this week?
I did not.
I did not either. They're from here. Serena played college basketball at Kansas State and was the NCAA assists leader this past year. And Jalen played football at North Dakota State and won 3 national titles. They're now both professional athletes in Seattle. That's just, I don't know why. That's just a brother, sister, both in Seattle from here. That's really cool.
That's an amazing story. I feel like I knew both their names, but I just didn't know their stories. So glad
I didn't know any of it, man. It just popped up to me. I'm like, I've never heard of Jalen Sundell. Apparently, he's got a chance to be the starting center for the Seahawks. And Serena, obviously, is a player. She's first-round draft choice out of Kansas State. So way to go. Good stuff. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate everything you do. John Anthony, Pete Mundo for helping make all this happen. This is great. I want to thank Phil LeVota for coming in today. It was just terrific. If you want to hear more of what we do here, I do a podcast every day called Kevin Kietzman Has Issues. You can listen to that any old time you like. We really appreciate you listening to Uncanceled right here on KCMO Talk Radio.